Today, we're going to perform a stretch migration. A stretch migration is basically where you stretch a cluster into the target infrastructure. Let's say you want to migrate from on-prem to the cloud, on-prem to another on-prem data center, or perhaps mainframe to cloud. It also works from cloud to cloud, basically anywhere you have a CockroachDB cluster and you want to migrate physically to somewhere else. A stretch migration is applicable to any of those kinds of migrations. In today's demo, everything's going to be running locally, but in practice, this will look the same regardless of where you're migrating from and to. I'll simulate a user by running a basic read-write workload, and that will hit a load balancer, which will direct my traffic to my on-prem nodes, at which point I'll join the cluster with my cloud nodes. That will form one cluster, which is why we call it stretch. It's stretching into the cloud. Then I'll toggle the load balancer to just target the cloud nodes before decommissioning the on-prem nodes, completing the migration. First, I'll spin up 3 nodes, N1, 2, and 3, all listening on ports 26257, 8, and 9, and I'll initialize the cluster. I'll initialize a load balancer. This will expose CockroachDB on port 26000, but it'll be routing traffic to 26257, 8, and 9. And there's a control port that allows me to control the load balancer at runtime, and that's exposed on port 3000. I'll add my on-premise nodes 26257, 8, and 9 to the load balancer and activate that route. Any requests to 26,000 will hit one of those nodes. I'll create a table using the load balancer address and I'll start the workload. This will make a write, a read, and it will fetch the locality that it talked to. So I haven't introduced the cloud yet and I haven't activated that in the load balancer, so therefore everything is going to the on-prem data center. Next, I'll start 3 nodes to simulate my cloud environment. These are listening on 36257, 8, and 9 with their locality of cloud. I'll add those nodes to the load balancer. No, I haven't activated that route yet, so everything's still going to on-prem. And at this point, I'll wait for my under-replicated ranges to come down. I've introduced the cloud nodes. There are 6 nodes in total in this cluster, and CockroachDB is making sure that data is being replicated across the cloud nodes as well. When that hits 0, we'll begin the migration. The under-replicated ranges have now gone to 0, and between the on-prem and cloud regions, we now have a balanced number of replicas. Now I'll flick the load balancer over to target the cloud nodes. We'll see a blip here. That's because I'm purposefully not handling the error. You'd probably want to perform a retry, but I'm not doing that, just to show you what happens. So the load balancer has flicked over to the cloud. We received a connection reset event and we've carried on, but this time the locality is the cloud. So we're now talking to the cloud nodes. At this point, we've got balanced data across the cloud and the on-prem environment. So I can start to decommission the on-prem nodes, and I can do that in one fell swoop. Cockroach node decommission. I'll talk to the load balancer address, my cloud nodes in this case, and I'll decommission nodes 1, 2, and 3, my on-prem nodes. And as they decommission, we won't see any under-replicated ranges here, but what we will see is these nodes are now being decommissioned. The only nodes we're left with post-decommissioning are nodes 4, 5, and 6, our cloud nodes. And we have a new table at the bottom for recently decommissioned nodes. This will disappear after a short while, but that contains nodes 1, 2, and 3, our on-prem nodes. We've essentially migrated to the cloud. The only nodes that are participating in this cluster now are in the cloud. I can now safely remove the nodes. I'll get their process IDs, and I'll kill them. Notice there's no downtime incurred by this action because they're no longer participating in the cluster, and I can remove their data. And that was a stretch migration. You'll notice that there was no downtime incurred by this migration process, nor was there any risk inherent in this process. Depending on the size of your cluster, the replication will take longer. Mine was just a local database, but the same theory holds regardless of the size of your database. If you're moving a Cockroach cluster from one place to another, consider stretch migrations as a way of achieving zero downtime.